I have to watch this one. But I can guarantee you guys, this is gonna be a video. I'm ready. I'm ready to pop off.
Ladies and gentlemen, what in God's name is happening with the Shadowlands system? Blizzard's running out of time. What does that mean?
Yeah. Okay, dude.
Good day. I hope you're feeling awesome. And if you are at least remotely following Shadowlands news, you're probably of the opinion of what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting 10 days. They've changed.
What happens whenever you do know what's going on and you're even more mad about it for that reason instead?
So much. My voice might die during this video. We've been recording that much stuff for you guys that my voice is kind of screwed. And
I'm ready.
The issue is we can't really release it because they've been changing stuff very, very rapidly as we approach this delay after delay deadline. We don't know how long the game is going to be delayed for, but one thing is very clear is Blizzard is hammering to get everything nailed in and sorted and then let it test whether it works, because a lot of the Shadowlands is still very, very broken. So what they really are trying to do is get everything finished as if the game was coming out, and then probably see what's broken and where they can go in and patch things up a little bit.
That'd be a good idea.
What that does also translate into is that the systems of the Shadowlands, these many systems they're creating, are kind of getting very rough, very quick fixes to get them in some sort of place. So if you are following the news, you've no doubt been inundated with people talking about conduits, the soulbinds, the legendaries that are being changed now. All this stuff that's been happening just over the last 7 days that is kind of important, because let's face facts, Blizzard bit off a monumental task for themselves in creating all these systems to launch.
Here's what it's like. Blizzard, they bit off. You ever eat a bite of food that's so much food in your mouth that you like fucking can't even chew any of it because there's so much of it in your mouth? You guys ever do that? Yes, that's what they did with Shadowlands. Is they're not chewing anything. They're just spitting a little bit out and swallowing a little bit of it in the back. It's just a big old fucking mouthful of fucking food, and it's disgusting.
They've historically struggled to get one system finished in time for like a tier, let alone getting all these systems done in time for the game to come out. And they're out of time now. So what does that mean? Well, we're in a little bit of danger of the final product not being either what Blizzard wanted it to be or what the players want it to be. And that's a scary place to be.
Nobody likes it.
And what it also means is that many of the
That's great.
all the systems, unfortunately, are underdeveloped. And I mean that in terms of what they're actually supposed to do doesn't really work. So you've probably seen all over forums and stuff, people calling it like Nerflands, World of Nerfcraft, and
they change that every day. It's system lands, Nerf lands, fucking delay lands. Like that doesn't matter or fucking anything, right? Like who gives a fuck about that? It's just, dude, to me, refund lands. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that shit too. Like that's not what you like to hear. But I'm just gonna play the video.
They're not wrong that Blizzard has been slowly and steadily really nerfing stuff down to the ground, and it's the correct decision to make. I wish they didn't put themselves in this position, but it is the correct decision to make with the game so soon to being released, because it's so all over the place that the real solution is to make everything less important, so that it's not having some sort of dramatic effect once the game actually comes out and messing.
Good solution. Make it to where players don't care about it, and that way it'll be okay. So if it's fucked up, nobody cares. Hey, that's smart, dude. That's real smart.
The game up. It's just a bit of a shame. It's a shame that we're going to get very, very, not very, very, but somewhat weaker. And here's my fear. Let me be honest with you guys. You guys have no doubt, who are watching this channel, been consuming content since the alpha, right? Since the alpha and the beta, keeping up with all these changes and stuff. And there was no doubt many aspects of this thing that you were looking forward to. And there's a real chance that when it actually goes live and we get the retail version, you're gonna go, this isn't what I was expecting at all. It's like I hardly even care about this. And you're not wrong. In fact, that is a really toxic yet prevalent attitude that is happening in the beta right now. Is with all these systems around us, the amount of people who give a people who care about these things like conduits and soulbinds anymore is shrinking by the day because
it's because the amount of people that care about the game is shrinking by the day. That's the reason. It's not because of people like losing interest in the expansion. They just get to the point to where I'm getting to where I just don't care anymore. Like I get to the point where I just don't care anymore. It doesn't matter to me. Like I just write it off. And it's actually sad. It's straight up fucking sad because I you know, like I want to be excited. I want to be like, oh yeah. But like, I'm not seeing it. It's just a game. Exactly. That's why like I don't want to be fucking pissed off and stressed out about it. You know what I mean? That's the whole reason why, man. Finally not bullshit opinion. Now we can make it better for sure. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's just kind of sad. So WoW's gonna kill itself. Well, the thing is, like, they're on the road to doing that. It certainly seems that way to me.
They're very, very kind of lackluster. They're not interesting, and they're required grinds that, thankfully, on the beta we can just kind of skip. And get around because we can just go to like the conduit vendor here and just buy them all. That we're kind of glad that option is available because we don't want to be dealing with this system because it's just not fun. Now, I know fun is subjective, and people will say, well, actually, I quite like collecting things. There's always something for everybody. But what I can tell you is kind of widespread now on the beta is so many people are just don't care. They're so tired of caring. And kind of Blizzard's in that point as well, which has been apparent by the changes they've done recently. So let me bring you up to speed. We're going to do a very quick history lesson. Is that on paper, this Soulbind, this is what you're seeing here, is the Soulbinds and the conduit system on paper is actually really cool. And I'm not...
You hear that with every fucking change they do. Things sound good on paper. Things sound good in their head. Oh, this theoretically sounds good. But what about real life? What about that?
I'm going to take anything away from Blizzard. The idea of it is pretty solid. What are these? Well, I know most of you just play World of Warcraft, and many of you will probably say it looks like a talent tree, but it's actually not. It's more reminiscent of something we had in Legion, which was an artifact weapon. Basically, what the Soulbinds and Conduit system is taking the artifact weapon tree, or the artifact weapon system, and then ripping it in two, and then adding more customization options in. On paper, really cool, because the artifact weapon system most people probably
100%.
liked,
yeah,
but it was kind of bland. Everybody got exactly the same things, which is usually a good thing in terms of class balance, because everybody's the same, it's a non-factor, and then... But everything was predetermined. Most people, I imagine if you play Legion right now, actually looked up what path you should go through your artifact weapon. And it also had that downside that the last things you picked up for the most amount of AP were the more boring things, because you picked up all the good stuff really early. And
yeah, of course, that's what everybody did. Like, artifact weapons would have been 1,000 times better if you were only able to pick, like, 2/3 of the traits or something like that, and you were able to make a decision that way. Like, you'd obviously get into, like, cookie-cutter decisions, but overall, I feel like it would have been more interesting that way. And, like, only if you were able to go back and forth, right? Like, I wouldn't want it to be like how conduits are now, or, like, covenants, where, you know, you pick this path in your artifact weapon and you can't go back and forth. But I like the idea of what he's saying, yeah.
Therefore, you just kind of worked through and picked up whatever was left. So the Soulbinds are a good idea. We get a bunch of passive stuffs, just like we did in artifact weapons, but instead of the golden circles that we had in the artifact weapons, now you get to customize what goes in there. That sounds pretty cool as well. It all sounds on paper pretty good. The problem is each of these systems carries with it its own individual problems, which then leads to a lot of problems later on. And we've seen evidence of that with Blizzard trying to work it out. So they came in with a very sort of brick and mortar, black and white approach to the Soulbinds. Originally, we're on like iteration number 14 of the Soulbinds now. But originally, they kind of had the idea that there'd be a DPS one, there would be a tank one, and then there'd be this kind of utility one.
That's the way that it seemed like to me that they were going. So they were basically almost like, you know, you go DPS, DPS, DPS tank, DPS utility, something kind of like that. I thought that was more interesting.
Be more tempting towards PvPers and people who like a little bit more functionality over raw output. But of course, the problem is, in paper, that kind of makes sense for a game that uses the holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, and where there is this other side, which is, PvP and stuff like that. But the reality is very, very different when actually brought into the game. One of the biggest problems is people do all different aspects of that stuff. Now, you might say, well, yeah, Mike, but that just means they use the different soulbinds. Well, not quite, because what it actually turns into is that Blizzard had to create 12 unique soulbinds. That's like 96 different passive traits. So keep up with the numbers here. Remember one of the videos I did on BFA, Beta, and Alpha regarding just how many Azerite traits they were and what they actually did for you, right? Some of you will remember it was like 240 Azerite traits. And many of you just went, oh my God, really? They created that many? Yeah.
And what ended up happening with all those Azerite traits? Is it like at least like 50% of them were unused? I know like for warriors, a lot of the Azerite traits most of the time are just trash. There's no reason that you want to use them. Yeah, it's so fucking dumb, dude.
They did. Blizzard tends to do this. I think they sometimes confuse quantity with depth, which isn't the case, because what we did find out as a player base is when the Azerite traits came out is, yeah, you had like 240 different Azerite traits, of which 5% were worthwhile, 10%. And there was just a whole bunch of stuff that nobody wanted. Like, nobody wanted. A whole bunch of stuff. It was kind of like opening one of them garage bins that you see on TV.
Yeah, like the storage wars.
And there's just a whole bunch of crap. But you're hoping...
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of fucking, like, cardboard boxes and shit. That's basically it. Like, yeah, it's absolute trash, man. Like, I don't know. The thing is that you act like Azerite traits were like super, super original and cool, and like some of them were awesome, but for every good one, there's like 5 other really bad ones.
Buried in there somewhere is something decent. Kind of like that. Well, did they learn from that? No, they did not. Let me explain. So there's like 96 different unique soulbind passives. This is obviously a big problem compared to what I just said about the artifact weapons in Legion, is that they were static, which is bland, but universal. And therefore, the characters were happy to get those things. It also makes it very easy to balance. Legion, of course, being the most balanced expansion we ever had. But take that with what you will.
Maybe.
So this time around, they wanted to make them unique.
Okay, I can see that.
The Covenants. So there's problem number one.
I feel like in general, like, yeah, Legion was actually pretty fucking balanced overall. I mean, whenever you consider all things, maybe WoD was more balanced, but I feel like Legion is definitely more balanced than BFA is.
Lines are all over the place. We looked at that last week.
Was more balanced
Blizzard is
than
aware
BFA
of it.
is.
We delayed the game. They're going to work on it. But people were very obviously saying, I actually just want to use one of these soulbinds because they're just so much better. Right? And then the tank said, I don't want to use the tanking soulbind. And you'd be like, why? Why wouldn't you? Right?
Because you have enough defensives already.
Not classic. If this was vanilla World of Warcraft, maybe you would have had people who wanted to use the tanking soulbinds. I challenge you to look at tanks these days, though, or for the last like 10 years, or at least since Mr. Pandaria, when I think Vengeance was in the game. The tanks are wearing Twilight Devastation. The tanks are wearing DPS stuff.
The tanks are not based on... tanking is DPSing whenever you have aggro. That's what tanking is. Tanking is DPSing while you have aggro and not dying. That's what it's about. Tanking is fucking... and it's better that way, too. Like, tanking in vanilla and BC sucked. It was trash. I think maybe you had, like, kind of good mitigation decisions in, like, Mists of Pandaria, kind of. But overall, it was fucking trash back then. Like, tanking, in my opinion, is much better now and much more fun. Wrong? Really? Really, you like doing no fucking damage in all of the content and trying to manage this invisible resource like threat? Oh wow, that's so fun. Speak for yourself. I think it was fucking garbage. I was so glad in Wrath whenever they gave tanks more damage. It's absolutely fucking trash. And it's so bad that tanking now in Classic is built completely around dual wield tanking because it's more fun. You know why? Because you get to do damage.
Their gear naturally overcomes a lot of their challenges. Sure, in progress, they might want to use a tanking soulbind, but then it's dead, and they all go towards the DPS one.
Of course.
Which is what people were pointing out. It's like, well, actually, we just want to go over here. And just due to the fact that there being so many unique different traits, is one of them is just so much better than the others. So it should be a case of buff the others, right?
Yeah.
You got 96 of these things. It's not that easy. So what they then did was start squashing them down into being less useful, less interesting and bland. So it started to equalize a little bit, yet the outliers still remain very, very strong.
Right.
And so people were like, Blizz, this is a problem. Now, in order to make the Soulbind's DPS, tank, and a kind of utility, what they did was make one of the Soulbinds, say Naya in this case, have 3 DPS conduits. So those are denoted by the crossed swords.
Yeah, very
here.
smart.
So Naya, in the original instance, not in this this is like the live current version of the beta, would have 3 of these. But this is the tank one, right? Dreamweaver would be the tank one. So Dreamweaver would have 3 of the endurance ones. And then as this is like the utility one, Karain here would have 3 of the lightning symbols, which denotes some sort of utility spell. That was the idea. So the DPS should go there. They get 3 DPS conduits. The tanks should go here. They get 3 endurance conduits. And then PvPers or whatever will go down to utility. Right. And again, it comes back to the fact of not only are the Soulbinds not balanced, but more people just care about doing more damage.
Of course.
And therefore, they started to all go towards one. So Blizzard recognized this. So then we got like iteration number 2 or 3, where they went, oh, okay, tell you what we'll do then. We'll change the Soulbinds so that all of them have 3 DPS.
You know what one of the problems is, right?
That
you know what the problem is? I'll say one thing about tanking. Tanking's too easy now in another way. You don't take enough damage whenever you're fighting most bosses. Like, the bosses don't do damage. Like, if you do the boss fight right, they don't do enough damage to be actually threatening. They just don't. Like, I don't know. Like, most people can, like, think about all the guys. It's either 0 damage or a 1 point, not on Mythic Plus. I'm not talking about Mythic Plus. I'm talking about, like, a Heroic Raid, for example. Like, a Heroic Raid, you're not taking a lot of damage in that Heroic Raid. So there's never a point where you need to build for defense as a tank, because there are so many tools that you have to solve the problem that you can just activate those tools rotationally, and you don't actually have to deal with it at all. I think that tanking should be redesigned in some way to make defenses matter more, but I do think that DPS in general is more fun. Doing more damage is more fun as a tank too. Like, it's insane.
By having only one Soulbind with
not
3
on Mythic,
DPS conduits that they were pushing
even I
people
think
there.
Mythic's not really
so
that
they
hard
then
to tank.
changed it. So
I think it's
like,
really
okay,
easy.
we're going to put 3 of the DPS Soulbinds into each of them, which then just put back the focus on the fact that the Soulbinds aren't right. So essentially think of a bucket, and Blizzard's trying to get as many people into the bucket, because if you're in the bucket, you're safe. The flood's coming.
Right.
If you're in the bucket, you're going to be safe. Everybody outside is not safe. And the people outside are the guys who do things probably different to you. So by changing this, maybe they made you happy. That works for you. You go in the bucket. But then you had these people outside who are like, wait a minute, I play all different kinds of aspects of the game, and these Soulbinds are wildly all over the place balance-wise, and historically you've never been able to balance this, which is a fair argument. So
exactly. That's exactly
the point. This
doesn't work
for me, because I still want to play Naya, but I play Ellie in raids, I do PvP as Resto, I go enhanced in dungeons because I really like it, and then sometimes I have to swap, or I'm in a guild, like certainly this happens a lot in heroic guilds, where I play like a floating spec. I'm a druid. Sometimes I tank, sometimes I heal, sometimes I DPS.
Yeah, you do whatever.
And what I don't want to be is like 30% less effective, because that's the role I like to play, and I've always been historically able to do that.
Yeah, I like being able to do different things too. That's what I kind of enjoy. Like, to me personally, I like being able to, like, you know, sometimes tank, sometimes DPS, sometimes do this or sometimes do that. I like being able to have options and choices. That's really what it comes down to. I want options and choices. Restricting player choice is never good. I think that it's usually not good.
That's a really good argument. Blizzard also has a really good argument here, and this is what people don't give me or our team enough credit for. Is Blizzard is absolutely right in saying that if every time you wanted to respec in the Shadowlands, that you had to not just do this, which is what a lot of us would prefer to have happen, honestly. It's like, I want to play BM here. That's the limit of the difficulty that should be involved, right? I might want to mess around with my talents a little bit, but that's it.
We're on conduits linked with your spec.
I can go and play BM and be happy. But
good question.
With all these extra systems, that's not the case. But Blizzard is right that if we wanted to respec, not only do I have to respec, maybe play with my talents, if the ripcord was pulled, change my Covenant spell and ability, change my Soulbinds, and swap my conduits, I have to do all these things on a per boss fight, per dungeon fight, per environment style fight. It's too much. It's too much hassle, especially for the average player. They won't be dealing with that. And Blizzard's right. It's a lot of hassle, and they would have got serious headaches from a lot of people who felt the need to do that, because why wouldn't I want to do 30% more damage? Right? I mean, it's a normal thing. So
that's a good
Blizzard
question.
started to lock these down. Now, this put more people out of the bucket. They were like, we're going to put a 1 week cooldown on this. You can see here, if I wanted to change my conduits inside here, it takes me 5 days to do that. I can't do it for like 5 days. And people are like, wait a minute. I clearly have to play this Soulbind because it's like 30% better or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't change these for a few days. Why? Because these things are kind of important.
Yeah, why?
Now, it gets a little bit more difficult here.
Why? It's because Blizzard decided that you're not able to. That's why. There's no complication there at all. They've just decided this is what you have to do.
Soulbinds.
It's crazy.
I can show you this, which is like an Azerite trait.
Uh-huh.
And you're probably going to go, that's not a big deal.
Because fuck you, that's why.
Look at this one.
Yeah.
Bestial Wrath increases all damage you and your pet deal by an additional 1%. So it's a 1% damage increase.
Incredible.
What are you bitching about? Here's the thing.
Okay.
You can't consider it this way, and this is what a lot of the feedback has been based on, and certainly 100% where the message has gotten lost to a lot of players. This system is likely to become, the conduit system, these are your conduits, the most powerful source of damage for your character over the course of this expansion. There's a very high chance of that happening. And the reason for that is these item levels continuously rise. Think about normal mode rating is only item level 200, which means it's 50 item levels stronger than that, which means this effect is going to be much better. And over the course of expansion, as item levels rise, these things are going to get more and more and more and more important. And what have we also seen with the Soulbinds is that as your gear level increases, some of these effects become exponentially better, which means it's an ever-increasing problem. That's the source of the argument. The source of the discussion that is happening as to why these should be freely available to respec is twofold. One,
well, if you replace one on accident, well, too bad, bitch. You got to wait till tomorrow. Because you just fucked up. That's what happens. You're done for the day. You don't get to do anything. It's just... I'm sorry. I'm so... okay.
A lot of players do not trust Blizzard to balance this even closely. And based on what we see right now, we're not there. And two, this is going to become a more important issue as time goes on. So this is a genuine concern as well. Blizzard also has a genuine concern that they don't want people messing around with 5 different systems every time they want to do a boss, because that's just a pain in the ass and it's bad. Now,
they don't do that. That's the thing. Is like, that's what I don't think Blizzard understands. Is like most players do not recalibrate every single thing in their character to be good for a certain boss. Like, they might do that at the beginning of progression, and they might do that, but I can guarantee you, whenever I did farm, like whenever we would farm raids back in the day, people didn't respec. They're just like, yeah, just go in there, fucking shoot the fucking arrows at a guy, he dies, it's just whatever, you know? Like, we've done this 40 times. You know, and like, that's really what it is. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in like a farm guild. If you've ever been in a good guild, this is what happens. Like, people stop giving a shit and they just farm it. Like, you do a normal mode raid. What do you think? Normal mode raiders are respecking for every single fight? Maybe they change one big talent or something like that, but that's it. Like, most of the time, they don't even do that. They don't change their gear. They're not changing their Azerite for each fight. This is only things that, like, fucking sweaty mythic players do. Nobody does that shit. Very, very rare.
Of course, the general solution that a lot of us would take is I just would rather these systems didn't exist and we just had something simple and fun. Just legendaries would have been fine.
Fun.
Legendaries.
Yeah,
but
fun.
Here we are. So we have to deal with the systems as presented to us. So Blizzard had another idea. Okay. The 1 week cooldown is pretty bad. What we're going to do then is we're going to create a charge system. So then they came up last week with a new system which was going to be power up to a maximum of 10 charges.
Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
Would consume a charge, and then over time, your charges would regenerate. Right?
Yeah.
So that does... It is better. It is better in some way. And it's not in the game yet, so they clearly haven't finished designing
That's
the system.
good.
They only came
Hopefully
up
it stays that way.
Is it ideal? No. Does it put more people back in the bucket? Yeah. In fact, combined with today's change, it probably will put most people in the bucket, although...
It is an improvement. The conduit system is definitely an improvement, yes.
we're getting to the point which has been another big topic of discussion.
Okay.
Is, does this system deserve this amount of attention? All right.
No.
So let me clear up this power system first.
Okay, here we go.
We're going to have 10 charges that enable you to swap conduits, and they will regenerate over time. It looks like every 7 hours-ish, you will gain a new charge. What that means is, combined with today's change, I should say today's change, they have reduced the amount of DPS conduits in each of the Soulbinds to 2. So they were 3, they're now down to 2. That also has another effect, is a lot of your strongest throughput, DPS, healing, tanking conduits are actually the conduits that affect your Covenant spell. And those are universal across all of the specs and environments you're in, for nearly everybody.
Okay.
So what it really means is that
really
if I wanted to BM as this guy, right? So I want to go this way, down here, and then I wanted to play BM like this. Let's see, endurance conduit, so we'll stick that one in. As we got a finesse conduit, so we'll stick that in. So that's me getting 2 of my DPS conduits, right? I got this one here with Wild Call, and I got one over here with Barb Shot recharge time. If I wanted to play MM, and the conduit's not here yet for this. We don't have the conduit.
You guys are keeping up, right? Everybody's keeping up. Everybody knows what's going on, right? I mean, we don't have to go back in the video, do we? I just want to make sure everybody's caught up. You guys totally know what he's talking about. Okay, all right, good. I just want to make sure. Okay, good. We'll keep going.
But let's say I had the conduit that boosts my Covenant signature ability.
Yeah.
In most cases, that is your strongest one. Not in every case. I don't want to be speaking for everybody here, but in most cases, that's your strongest one.
Yeah.
Which means that if I was to switch to MM, the only conduit I would have to change is one of them to still use the best Soulbind, which means it uses one charge. That's going to accommodate nearly everybody. And the good idea about that is, on the one hand, Blizzard
people are just going to pick the best one.
They get to say you don't need to respec, you don't need to do all that stuff. And the reason they get to say that is because the amount of actual respecking that's practically useful to you is probably a 1 or 2 conduits at best.
Great.
Right?
So that means everything. So that means everything that's not in your initial tree, you just don't use. Oh my god, dude! Do I have so many choices at all? Yeah, oh my god, dude. Wait, you're lost? You want me to restart the video? Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll do that. Let me finish it for everybody else, then we'll restart it for you. Yeah, I know some people don't understand it.
That's all your change is 1 conduit. If you really want to optimize yourself to the tits, it's rechanging 1 conduit. All right. Most people are going to be in the bucket in that case. Now, I said earlier, does this system deserve this attention? Absolutely not. I did say these things are going to be extraordinarily powerful. They are. They're also not worth, like, the second thought. As I told you, a lot of people at beta are not interested in the system, and it's because they're providing things like Bestial Wrath increases the damage you do by 1%. Now, an argument we got into on Twitter with somebody who was like, well, not everything needs to be super amazing and change the gameplay. You're right. You're absolutely right. I am okay with passive spells. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of them here that I don't need to go and farm and refarm and refarm and refarm over the course of this expansion right here in the Soulbind. I have them all here. This is the conduit system, for the most part, is utterly, entirely unnecessary. It serves no actual purpose other than existing for the sake of existing. And I think part of that is, one, Blizzard hasn't had time to develop it because they've run out of time. It's woefully underdeveloped in terms of what it actually is. And you might think I'm being picky.
Yep, time's up. This is like, you know what this is like? This is like whenever you're in science class and you originally have like this crazy cool idea of making this like super involved and like really complicated science project where there's like a moving volcano and there's like lava that comes out of the volcano, and you wait until like a month until the science project is due and you have nothing done. And so you get to the last 2 weeks and you have to do your science project, or maybe the last week or the last 3 days, and you realize that there's literally no way that you can finish and make the volcano work at all. So what you do instead of that is you just take a sheet of paper and draw a volcano on it and make a 3-page flip book of what the volcano would look like, and then you tape it onto the front of the cardboard for the science project. You take that bitch to the science fair, the teacher gives you a C, and you just breathe a sigh of relief that somehow you're not going to fail 3rd grade. This is basically what these systems look like to me. We're 3 days out from the science fair, and they're not ready. They're never going to be ready because they're unbalanceable.
Key here, I'm really not. If we look at 10% increased secondary damage is increased by 10%. Precise shots increases the damage of your next arcane shot or multi-shot by an additional 5%. Yeah, it already does. The proc is already 75%, so it changes it from 75% to 80%.
Yeah.
It's very, very lackluster. You would never notice until you broke down the damage meter type stuff. It's entirely unnecessary. And the amount of effort that Blizzard has gone through and resource developed in order to not only constrict and restrict this system, to control players' usage of this system, and to enforce the rejigging of the Soulbinds and all the things that have happened there in order to get this system to a workable state, far, far and away surpasses the actual effort that has gone into creating the conduits themselves. We are way above that. We are...
Yeah, again, you're just spending all your time rebalancing these little things. You're rebalancing. It's insane. Who asked for this system? I like the system. I just don't like the restrictions around it. I think the conduit system would be fine. I just don't know why I have to wait a certain period of time to use it.
And I said this to the Warcraft devs. It's like, guys, it kind of feels like you've built Alcatraz in terms of how much they have tried to lock players down, prevent you from utilizing the system, which does make sense.
Building Alcatraz.
There it is. That, but you're doing it to basically protect an apple, right? You've built a prison to protect something that just doesn't need to be there in the first place. As far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of you would agree after reading through these, that it's like, it's not worth this for something that players are not particularly interested in the first place.
No.
And that's where it's at. But you might say, well, are they going to make more? And I think this is the other one. It's like, well, maybe the plan is, if it's underdeveloped now, they're going to make them better later in the patch. Well, probably not. And the reason for that is, I just told you that, there's like 96 different unique passives that come across the Soulbinds. There's what, 25, maybe 30 different conduits that are for a hunter alone.
9.3.5,
so
boys, there it is.
Classes, so now you've got 360
Get hype.
different conduits they've had to create. On top of the 96 Soulbinds, there are 200 legendary items coming into the game. That is how many there are. There are 200 legendary items going to be in the Shadowlands at launch. There's no way you could take that amount of stuff and make it all something cool.
No.
And that's where it comes all the way back down to it. It's like, you just cannot make all of that cool and fun. There's no way. There's just
Do you think Preach paused this damage meter on one of the damage meters where he's at the top for the video? Because I just noticed that. He's at the top of the damage meter. I bet he did that. That's what I would do in my video. Like, there'd be times where I was, like, making a video, and I would see that I was, like, number 4 on the damage meter, and I'd go to, like, some trash fight, and I'd put it on there so everybody'd see I'm number 1.
Too many. Far, far, far too many. And considering that they're trying to do them all simultaneously, it's just not going to happen. And then we've got, of course, some set bonuses as well on top of that, as well as them just trying to basically sort out these spells in general. So I hope that you know what you're up to. I think you should walk away from this feeling relatively good that this system, which is under development right now, it will get some development time. I wouldn't expect anything mega out of the conduits, but does this solve the issue for nearly everybody? Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Their progress is definitely going to be a problem for the top end. They'll play around it. And some people will run into issues at some point. But I truly believe for most people, this is actually okay. And Blizzard gets to still stick to their guns and say, well, we did lock it down so you weren't doing all that stuff. The way they did it was by making it so you didn't really want to change anything. Or that you only had to change a very tiny thing. So
you're not able to change because you don't want to. Problem solved.
Oh, even though it's restricted, I only actually need to do something small anyway. It's like, well, you can only get 1 drink of water from the fridge, and we're never going to change our mind on that. But your glass is huge, so you only ever need 1 glass of water. You know, it's kind of one of those situations.
Okay.
But it's good enough. It's good enough. So I hope that brings you up to date and of what's happening with these systems. As of right now, likely to change again as we get closer to time. Blizzard is running out of time, so they're really trying to plug all these holes up as best they can. I think this is okay, if not an utter calamitous waste of time. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you again.
Lots of quick, impactful changes. Blizzard is literally the definition of insanity. I wish they had just given us new talent row for Shadowlands. So it turns out the Jailer's evil plan is to lock us up in systems that we never wanted in the first place. Absolutely diabolical. So after watching this, there's only one question I kept asking myself. Why, though? Imagine getting tired of new expansion before it's even out yet. Not gonna lie, Preacher Sound of Jared is my favorite thumbnail so far. Remember the announcement after Shadowlands when Preach said this will never work? And here we are. And here we are. I don't know. I'm actually kind of curious. What do people on the WoW Reddit say about this? I'm going to go ahead and take a look and see. Oh, Jana Proudmore. Let's see. Nice. Okay.